Warning, this video will obviously go into spoilers, so if you have not caught up with this show, please turn this video off and watch and finish up with this show. I beg of you, it will be worth your time. Hey guys, so yeah, it's been a while, it's been a couple weeks since I've made a video, and I apologize for that. I've been very busy, and I hadn't had the time to go see a lot of movies in the theater because of money, and also school, of course, and marching band and all that stuff. But other than that, because it's been a while, I decided to come back and do another video, and this time I'm not reviewing a movie, but rather reviewing an episode of a television series. You may have heard of this series. If you haven't, you're pretty much living under a rock, or as Hank would say, you're living under a mineral or something like that. But anyhow, I am reviewing Felina, aka the final episode of AMC's Breaking Bad. What more can be said about this show? This is absolutely one of my favorite shows of all time, one of the best made shows of all time. Vince Gilligan wrote a fantastically done show with such great characters, Walter White and Jesse Pinkman. Great actors portray them as well, and just a great story about following a man who just starts out as Mr. Chips and turning into Scarface. And it's such a great show that gets you so hooked from episode 1 all the way to the final episode, which I will finally delve into right now. As we follow Walt, he's sitting in his car, it's all snowed in, and it's just right after he found out about the Schwartzes of Gray Matter. They've kind of talked on Charlie Rose about how they knew about the old Walter White and how he now has become a Heisenberg, and they're trying to distance themselves away, and they kind of taken all the credit and said that Walt only took part of the company of Gray Matter just by the name. So of course Walt is angry, and as we see him inside his car, he's determined to get ready to drive off back from New Hampshire all the way back to Albuquerque. And he drives back home. You see that he calls somebody, and he finds out about the Schwartz's residence. As we see Elliot and Gretchen in their nice, beautiful home, and he ends up confronting them. At first, I thought that he was about to kill them on the spot, but instead, he called them to his car, into the trunk, and get all the millions of dollars in there so they could give it to his family, because he cannot give it legally to his family because they will get arrested and he will get arrested. And of course, the Schwartzes at first are skeptical of it because, of course, Walt is a criminal, Heisenberg, it's all a legend now. But because of this, Walt threatens them by having 2 hitmen come in and warn them about it with like 2 lasers pointing at their chests, telling them that if they don't give him the money, they are done for. We find out that those 2 hitmen were actually Badger and Skinny Pete, who were paid by Walt to take care of this. They're inside the car, they're all 3 inside the car, and now they're talking about how Jesse, who is not in Alaska according to Badger and Skinny Pete, but is rather working for Todd and the neo-Nazis in the lab, still cooking the blue crystal meth. Now we follow Walt as he meets up with Lydia and Todd. Lydia is just sitting there with Todd as she's drinking her tea, of course, as always, as Walt comes in and confronts them. We then realize that Walt has spiked Lydia's tea with the stevia that happens to have the ricin that we know of. And of course, this doesn't end well for Lydia. Then we see Skylar getting a call from Marie. She is warned about how Walt is now on the loose back in Albuquerque after all that has happened, of course. And then what I thought was a masterful shot by the cinematographer comes along as we zoom in and we realize that Skylar is not alone in her house, but Walt is in there too. They share their last conversation together as Walt admits to all the acts he's done and admits to his own pride, which I found very moving and very well acted by Bryan Cranston. Then Walt asks for one last look at Holly as he holds her for one last time. What I found so great with this sequence was the lighting as well. The way the tone was just so well done subtly through the cinematographer and the lighting technicians was just done so perfectly. As you look at Walt, you could tell that there's so much dark shadows with him, because when you see him talking with his wife, you could tell that Skylar is all brightened up even though she's in a really dark situation as well. And when we see Walt, he is in despair. He is going through horrible situations and it's just trying to pay for what he's done over the past 2 years of this show. Then Walt is about to leave and he finally takes his last look at Flynn, aka Walter Jr. And then soon we cut to a scene where Walt goes to where the meth lab is and he finally confronts the neo-Nazis and finds out about Jesse. Him and Jesse stare at each other as he's taken in. Suddenly, Walt pins Jesse down as the car that he has the machine gun go off, and all of a sudden the machine gun shoots every one of the white supremacist groups, except for Todd, who is given his just desserts by Jesse as Jesse strangles him to death, kind of just like what Walt did in one of the first episodes of the first season, what he did to Crazy 8, strangles him in a similar fashion. Then all of a sudden, everyone is dead, and Walt and Jesse have this final confrontation with each other. Jesse pulls a gun, points it at Walt. Walt encourages him to pull the trigger, but then Jesse notices that there's a gun wound on Walt. He decides not to shoot him, and Jesse goes inside the car as he drives off, feeling the need for speed, if you will. Then we see Walt, one last time, walking through the meth lab, but just basking in all the despair that he's been through over the past 2 years, just obviously remembering what has happened of all these events that happened ever since he decided to cook meth and provide for his family, if you will. Then Walt succumbs to his gunshot, falls down to the ground, and he's done. He's lying there as the policemen come in and find his corpse. Cut to black. Executive producer, Vince Gilligan. This show is brilliant. Felina is one of the best episodes of this entire series because the way it was done was just so well, from the cinematography to the acting, everything was just done almost flawlessly. And I gotta say, as somebody who was speculating along with the other fans of the show, speculating about how this show is gonna go, and thinking that it was gonna be something big, I love what Vince Gilligan did here. Instead of something so huge and epic in scale of an episode, he instead went into a nice, small portrait following the life of Walter White, as we followed him from the first pilot all the way to the end. Not just a nice, intimate look of the character, and to see his transformation all the way from just Mr. White, chemistry teacher, to Heisenberg, and now to see how he's become now is just so moving to watch. And that is also a credit to Bryan Cranston's phenomenal acting. As for the rest of the cast, they all did such a great job. I loved Aaron Paul in this episode. The way this show concludes is just perfect. The way Vince Gilligan decided to end this brilliant television show that will leave its mark in history of television will definitely endear the fans all around the world. It is definitely one of the best shows I've ever seen in my entire life. The way the drama just unfolds, the characters, everything is done so well. And although I don't think this is the best episode of the season, that goes to Ozymandias, this episode still manages to be of the series' best. Great finale to one of the greatest shows ever made. Thank you, Vince Gilligan, Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul, Anna Gunn, Betsy Brandt, Dean Norris, everybody in this show. Just thank you so much. I want to give you all a hug for giving such a phenomenal show. I adore this show. Of course, it gets a 5 out of 5. And yeah, great series finale, and it leaves all loose ends tied. Thank you so much. Great series. If you want to see more videos of mine, you can click that button and subscribe. You can leave a comment down below. You can like this video. You can share this on Facebook and Twitter, any other social media device that you may use. You can also check out my written reviews at greenarcreviews.wordpress.com. You can also check out my Facebook page down below. And I guess that is it. I am Noah from Green Arc Reviews, and I'll see you in my next video.